I feel like when I listen to a lot of Democrats and left-leaning people talking about Republicans since the election, especially, but this year, it feels like we all forgot about 2016. Like, it feels like we all forgot like the absolute crazy shit that the left was doing from like 2016 to 2020.
This is one of the big problems that I have with, I mean, for example, all the talk about Trump tyrant, Trump executive power. I mean, Joe Biden has used executive power in ways that far outstrip
every president has been stretching.
Oh, every president now.
Like, Joe Biden has gone well beyond anything Trump even remotely attempted to maintain via just pure executive power. I mean, Joe Biden literally used the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration to try to cram down vax mandates on 80 million Americans. That's insane.
Sure,
he literally said, I cannot relieve student loan debt, and then tried to relieve hundreds of billions of dollars in student
but what
loan
happened
debt.
to that?
It got struck down by the Supreme Court, and then they still did it. Biden bragged about it.
You think that like people's lives are defined by their trauma with their parents? Well, for political commentators, it's like that, except it's trauma with whoever made fun of you on Twitter last. And for Anna, man, those lefties really got to her. That homeless guy and the trans calling her a birthing person. Whew.
Wow, yeah, the homeless guy assaulting Anna. Yeah, that was nothing. Like, what? The downplay for that is so disgusting.
I think that there's sound arguments on either side, which would argue like, well, if this group is broadly more educated and whatnot, then there is a certain level.
Destiny completely disagrees with that point. Sound arguments on both sides? Oh, are you doing both sidesism now? What?
No, he's not gonna be president, that I can tell you.
That's what you call cope? Oh, there it is. Found it. Let's go.
Is there any way within the Constitution that Trump would have the ability to undo the term limits so that he could just run again, or he could extend it?
The Constitution is not very relevant at this point. The question is just a matter of like, does he want to do it? If he wants to do it now and he's got the right people around him, he'll find a way to do it. The Constitution is just a safeguard that is there for people that care about the Constitution.
I don't know.
All right. Let me just...
But I mean, like, Vance himself has advocated for betraying the Constitution, like he said it in plain English. So, yeah. Donald Trump himself has tweeted out or social truthed out that sometimes you can suspend the Constitution if you need to. So the Constitution is not really a safeguard anymore. It's the people that are around him that would be the safeguards. And it seems like he's removing those people. So
do you think if there's this like... I don't know what this Matt Gaetz, Laura Loomer, H-1B schism is.
The vast majority of people fighting against H-1Bs, I think, are probably just people that feel like depressed workers who are having income opportunities threatened by people from overseas. Mm-hmm. I don't think the majority of them are racist or like Nazis or whatever, but I think a growing chunk of the conservative...
we're going to test if there's any issues with like encoding issues or anything like that with my stuff. I might have to restart the stream. I will do that this time instead of just letting it run.
Of MAGA movement are Nazis, and a decent chunk of them are just racists. And I think that the just racist and the Nazi people can work together and bring more people into their movement without the other people even being aware that that's what's happening, because they're so kind of like lost on everything else. So
the outcomes that you see as possible, worst case scenario is a unified party under Trump. Do you see it as a total erosion of the democracy? Is that like what?
I think it already has been in a lot of ways. You have a convicted felon who has secured some powers from the Supreme Court that a president or no person in the United States has ever enjoyed before. I think it was a referendum on how we feel about fake news and misinformation, how we feel about leaders that don't take accountability or responsibility, how we feel about leaders that just lie to us. Like, Trump kind of embodies the worst of everything that it could be. Yeah. To like be an American, like he's like the worst of all of that, and our country basically co-signed it, like a braggadocious idiot that takes no accountability or responsibility for anything and is ultimately self-serving at the end of the day, which is what you would expect from, I guess, like a billionaire real estate guy from New York, and then did so with a guy who bought up like a media company, turned it private, leveraged it to help Trump win. A lot of weird foreign intervention. It's just like a lot of really bad stuff that all kind of like was, I think, validated in the last election cycle. Yeah.
Worst outcome. Civil war, decay of democracy. Could you see him finding a way around? Because I know Ben Shapiro's biggest pushback on you about Trump, I think when you guys talked, is you were like, yeah, but January 6th. And he was like, yeah, but he couldn't,
Donald Trump's only allegiance is to Donald Trump, right? We agree on that. The only thing he cares about is Donald Trump.
I don't think it's the only thing he cares about. I think it's certainly the largest thing he cares about.
It's the largest thing he cares about, right? So you've got a man who only cares about himself.
Welcome to politics. I mean, it may be more...
But that's not even...
It may be more with Trump, but it's certainly not unique to Trump.
I think that the issue with Trump, too, though, is... I think he's even a threat to the Republican Party, in which I think you would mostly agree with me, maybe not overall, but on every individual point. Trump picks bad candidates. He has no concern for the future of the Republican Party. Like, for instance, I think there is a chance, I don't think it'll happen because of the polling looks now, but if Trump didn't get the nomination, I think Trump would say, screw it and run as an independent because he thinks he can win or whatever, right?
I doubt that he would do that, but theoretically.
Possible.
I mean, Trump ran as an independent in the for the first place. I actually remember pointing this out. He did run as an independent, and then he switched to the Republican Party because like he realized he wasn't going to get that much support. Or some sort of reason.
He was really content to throw Georgia, the 2 runoff elections under the bus because Raffensperger didn't support him for the election.
So what is all this in service of? What's the generalized argument that you're making? Do you believe? I'll go back to my question. Do you think that if Trump wins, there will be no more elections? Is that like what percentage on it? What percentage do you think that's a reality?
If Donald Trump wins, I think there is a 100% chance that he will try to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. In terms of would he succeed?
I can guarantee you he will not do that.
Why is that?
Because he's in his second term and he's no longer eligible, and he will believe he won and he will leave.
Yeah, but hasn't Donald Trump himself joked about running for a third term? I think that having a third term.
What has Donald Trump not joked about? I mean, forgot.
I don't. Okay, hold on.
If you want to prevent him from creating a revolution, you probably should actually just appoint him president, and then he can't run again.
Here's another broad argument that I don't like in favor of Trump, and this was brought up earlier in terms of like we talk about like not grading presidents on a curve, but then earlier we said we take Biden's rhetoric.
Oh no, I totally grade Trump. No, I 100% grade presidents on a curve. Are you kidding?
Oh, okay.
I grade pretty much everybody on a curve.
Then I feel like
I don't treat my 7-year-old the same way that I treat my 9-year-old.
Sure, but I don't like that it feels like we're treating Donald Trump like a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old. I think we should treat him like the president of the United States. I don't think having a president that has taken like concrete steps
completely ignores the analogy from like you don't treat Hillary the same way that you treat Obama. Like that's just they're two different people. That was a much better analogy, but notice how Destiny doesn't want to acknowledge that at all. Come on now.
Okay.
I grade pretty much everybody on a curve.
Then I feel like
I don't treat my 7-year-old the same way that I treat my 9-year-old.
Sure, but I don't like that it feels like we're treating Donald Trump like a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old. I think we should treat him like the president of the United States.
Completely
I don't think having a
ignores
president
that
has taken like concrete steps to prevent the transfer of power, which he did with the electorate sham, which he did with Pence, and which he did with trying to capitalize on the J6 violence. A president has taken concrete steps towards cooing the government, essentially. I don't know why that guy, we'd say, well, you know, it's Trump, he does Trump things. The guardrails held, will probably hold next. So,
I mean, when we say
Trump didn't coup the government, like, calm down, man. You're just exaggerating.
We shouldn't. Do you mean that he should be actually barred from office?
I'm just talking about support from. I don't even think Republicans should support Trump. You lose your incumbent advantage. The guy's obviously self-destructive. He's destructive to the political party itself. I just think that I think it's scary that like Donald Trump. It feels like for all of the accusations that are made sometimes against Democrats, like Biden is ordering Garland to investigate Donald Trump and blah blah blah. It seems like Donald Trump would actually do that with his DOJ. Would give them orders.
He didn't. He didn't.
Well, he kind of did though, right? So for instance, with Jeffrey Clark went to Rosen and Donahue and said, "Hey, listen, I need you guys to sign off on a letter that we're going to use essentially to bully states into overturning their elections by saying we found significant election fraud." And part of that threat was Jeffrey Clark saying, "Listen, if you're not going to do it, Rosen, Trump's going to fire you and just make me the acting attorney general." That was the threat that he carried, and I think Trump repeated that threat in a meeting later on. That was I only rebuked when I think like half the White House staff said, "If you do this, we're resigning."
Okay, so that's a slightly different topic because now you're getting into all the election shenanigans and all this. But
Trump saying he threatened to fire his acting attorney general if he wouldn't carry the same platform. Essentially, like if Trump could
Trump bad. Come on now, Trump bad. He said he was going to fire someone. Trump bad, right? Come on now.
For his DOJ to do something, would he? It's not beyond the pale for him, right?
It's not beyond the pale for him to order them to do it, and then it's not beyond the pale for them to reject him doing that, which is the story of his entire administration. Whereas Joe Biden orders his DOJ to do things, and then they just do them.
Well, I'm not. We can get into specifics there. This
is one of the big problems that I have with, I mean, for example, all the talk about Trump tyrant, Trump executive power. I mean, Joe Biden has used executive power in ways that far outstrip
every president has been stretching.
Oh, every president now.
Like, Joe Biden has gone well beyond anything Trump even remotely attempted to maintain via just pure executive power. And actually, Trump's use of executive power is nowhere near even what Obama's was.
I mean, Trump's inability to get border policy passed literally had him using executive power to march the military down to the border to do border policy. I mean,
Joe Biden literally used the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration to try to cram down vax mandates on 80 million Americans. That's
OSHA literally tried to use OSHA to force people to take vaccines. That's actually legitimately insane.
Sure, he literally said, I cannot relieve student loan debt, and then tried to relieve hundreds of billions of dollars in student
but what happened to that?
It got struck down by the Supreme Court, and then they still did it. Biden brags about it.
For what he was able to relieve, which I think were related to particular types of student loan debt.
But so when Destiny's favorable candidate does something authoritarian, it's like, well, you know what? It's fine. It's okay because it's something that I like. But when the other side does anything that's remotely close to like being like a little bit authoritarian, it's like, this is the worst thing in the world. This is gonna break democracy. And I'm like, bro, come on now, Destiny. Like, we could literally see right through you. This video aged so well. 11 months ago, so well.
It didn't.
I mean, he did.
He's got two.
It did happen.
He got 2 terms, and then he's
it's
done.
The first time I think maybe in 200 years that the certification was pushed back a day. It was. He failed in other ways, but I think that was largely just due to his cowardness and incompetence than anything else. Mm-hmm. But I mean. Who knows? Hard to say what'll happen.
Yeah. because I know Ben Shapiro's biggest pushback is basically, but like basically the government will stand. Like there's enough stop guards that even if he does try to steal the government again, he can't.
But now that he knows what failed him last time, now he's trying to work around that this time. There's a reason why he chose a vice president that explicitly said he would do what Pence didn't do. The reason why he's looking to staff the government with people who would explicitly allow him to do the things that they blocked him from doing last time. So that's kind of the concern. Yeah.
Did Musk buy Twitter this year?
Come on up here, Elon. He created the first major.
No, Elon bought it in like what, he bought it in 2022. Yeah, end of 2022. And then like everyone kept saying, oh, Twitter's going to die now because Elon Musk took it. And then 2 to 3 years later, it's still like running basically pretty good. Like it's actually kind of funny.
American car company in generations, and his rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space.
The H-1B thing, though, represents, it's very funny, though, because this is like the neocon versus the MAGA type of econ stuff. Like under Bush, you always had like these Tea Partiers and small government people that didn't like the expansion of the Department of Education with No Child Left Behind. They didn't like that he didn't crack down on immigration enough. But like the reality is business owners and people who are invested in the economy in general like these things because it helps the economy grow. More government spending usually helps the economy. More immigration helps the economy. And H-1B is like a continuation of that. Conservatives saying that like, oh, we're kind of populist, but in reality, like we want to have our workers too, obviously. Yep. And Elon Musk and Trump are both billionaires who are invested in the economy and invested in workers coming over. So it's not surprising at all that they would fight the neocon position on that. But the MAGA people behind them are somehow surprised that billionaires are advocating for billionaire interests. So, but
I know the tech right and like the kind of like the Christian worker right that
I wouldn't frame it like that. I think a subsect of the MAGA people are not happy with that, but there's a bunch of other MAGA people that are perfectly fine with it.
Was fusing together. I was wondering what would be the thing that would separate them because it's obvious that they're not going to stay together. Their interests are way too far apart. The benefits of a tech billionaire is not that benefits like a truck driver. They just have
probably yeah. But it also depends on how much like misinformation people get fed too. Like you might be able to convince these people otherwise that it is in their interest to believe in a particular thing. Like a lot of poor people still believe in trickle down economics, which is retarded.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah. Recently, President Musk was backed by Trump. Have you seen like all of the coping from Trump and Musk about the President Musk stuff?
Yeah, I saw the clip of Trump saying that like, well, he can't be president because he's not American and...
No, he's not going to be president, that I can tell you.
That's what you call cope?
And I'm safe. You know why? He can't be. He wasn't born in this country.
Oh yeah, there's like a whole... they're using some sort of noise compression. So like there's a whole audience that he's talking to, but you can't really hear because there's some sort of weird noise compression that they're doing with to make everything not be heard for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, I guess all they want to hear is the words. They don't really care for all the cheering in the background and stuff like that. But that's like throughout every clip that they've shown so far.
I don't know. Who knows where that relationship will go? It's hard to say.
So curious to like watch. Do you think that they'll schism? Because I feel like Trump is not going to put up with, like, you can't have like two big narcissists.
I seriously doubt there's as much like division between Musk and Trump as people are implying there is. Although Trump's truth tweet about Musk coming back to Mar-a-Lago was incredibly fucking cringe.
So weird.
Don't know what that's about.
I thought that was fake. I'm
yes,
the first time I saw it, I was like, this is AI. This is real.
Or not real? Just like a, or not I thought it was just like somebody did like a Photoshop or like...
It's like an ex-girlfriend. It's like a girlfriend being like, please go home.
Yeah, it was really weird. But both of these guys have like incredibly fragile egos, so it's really, who knows? Like, yeah. It literally is impossible to predict Trump on like...
Anything.
Anything.
Is he less predictable than any politician?
And that is...
broadband or...
Less predictable? I don't know. The problem is I just don't think he has a lot of knowledge of these things, so it's hard to... Well, like if I were to say that like I'm having issues with like the studio computer and I give you like 5 options for how to like reformat the disk, I have no idea what you would pick or why.
I have to
you
go
would,
back
like,
2 seconds.
Broadband or...
Like the whole point of them talking about Trump being unpredictable, like they say it as a bad thing. I'm like, no. If you guys can't even predict them, like how do you think other world leaders feel? Like that's the whole point.
Less predictable? I don't know. The problem is I just don't think he has a lot of knowledge of these things, so it's hard to... Well, like if I were to say that like I'm having issues with like the studio computer and I give you like 5 options for how to like reformat the disk, I I have no idea what you would pick or why you would pick them.
He's just assuming that Trump doesn't know about these things.
Like some outcomes for Ukraine, I have no idea why he would pick them or what he would say. Or if you were to ask me like a good training modality or therapy modality for a patient, I would probably pick the most complicated. Like I don't know. I don't know how he would make any of the decisions. I truly don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Do you think we can rebuild the Trank arc? What's going on?
I don't know. That's just, for some reason, conservatives get to live, like they get to have all the pros of one world and all of the, like none of the cons of that world. It'd be like saying I have a body count of like 500 women and I've raped every single one, but I'm not a rapist. Like that's like conservative approach to politics, is that somehow Donald Trump, who is a billionaire, real estate mogul from New York, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, who's supported by the richest man this guy is anti-establishment, who also was the president for 4 years, is somehow not the establishment, is supported by the entire Republican Party, is not the establishment. So I don't know how he, what?
Gonna join the Stromp isn't like owned by billionaires.
Yeah, I don't understand how.
The Stromp? What's that? I know it's a misspeak, but it's funny.
Was the president for 4 years, is somehow not the establishment, is supported by the entire Republican Party, is not the establishment. So I don't know how he, what?
Gonna join the Stromp isn't like owned by billionaires.
Yeah, I don't understand how Republicans can be anti-establishment and support Trump, but that's that they are right now. So that's the arc that like Cenk is on. And then I think Anna, there's a lot of people whose whole lives are. It used to be
Destiny is so convinced that Trump is like a part of the establishment. That's why he doesn't understand why people could support someone that's in the establishment, because Destiny thinks that they're already in the establishment. And I'm like, obviously people don't have your opinion on what you think is who's in the establishment or not. Like, more people disbelieve your opinion on that, but you just live in a completely different world or reality, basically.
You think that like people's lives are defined by their trauma with their parents?
But
well, for political commentators, it's like that, except it's trauma with whoever made fun of you on Twitter last. And for Anna, man, those lefties really got.
But it's very easy to understand why Destiny feels the way that he feels. But Destiny, it's too difficult for him to understand how the other side feels. And that's the funny thing.
That homeless guy and the trans calling her a birthing person.
Oh yeah.
Oof. I feel like the lefty hate.
It used to be
the downplay. Actually, let's listen to this.
You think that like people's lives are defined by their trauma with their parents? Well, for political commentators, it's like that, except it's trauma with whoever made fun of you on Twitter last. And for Anna, man, those lefties really got to her. That homeless guy and the trans calling her a birthing person. Whew.
I feel.
Wow. Yeah, the homeless guy sexually assaulting Anna. Yeah, that was nothing. Like, what? The downplay for that is so disgusting. So disgusting.
Like the lefty hatred, though. Maybe this isn't your experience, because I feel like you get uniquely horrible conservative hatred. But I feel like lefty hatred is like a unique.
I wonder why. When Destiny will downplay the whole assassination attempt, and he'll also downplay Anna's sexual assault from the homeless guy. Like, I wonder why he has so much hate. Like, what? It's just so stupid.
Unique level of like unpleasant to experience. Like it's like they don't just try to like punch you in the face, they try to like stab you and poison you to death and like kill all of your friends and family slowly and like monotonously, which I think can be like in some ways more distressing, especially when you assumed we were in the same camp than like the opposite camp trying to destroy you.
I think there's two things at play there. I think one thing at play is that if you are part of a political side, then it feels worse when they attack you. Like if a conservative wants to call me like a gay wad or whatever insult you want to use, like, yeah, like, okay, I don't care. But like when a lefty is like, you're bigoted or you're racist, it's like, well, I don't view myself that way. Like the closer you are to them, the more the insults hurt, because they're genuinely saying that you're not a thing that you view yourself as, rather than a conservative who's attacking you on a point that like, yeah, I'm not that, we fight on that. I think that it hurts more. And then a second thing is, I think that there's a slightly bigger buy-in, I think, for the left, like the things that you have to be in alignment on. I don't even know if that's true, though.
I think that's definitely true. One of the criticisms I feel like I have of, maybe not you, I don't, because I haven't asked you personally about it, but I feel like when I listen to a lot of Democrats and left-leaning people talking about Republicans since the election, especially, but this year, it feels like we all forgot about 2016. Like it feels like we all forgot like the absolute crazy shit that the left was doing from like 2016 to 2020, which obviously I hope that you don't, because you were like in many ways a victim of all that stuff as well. But I feel like when we look at Trump, it's hard not to look at that and think that he's a monster that we made a little bit.
True. So very true. Thank you. This was like a big point on why I wanted to watch this. So true.
That the left was doing from like 2016 to Republicans since the election, especially, but this year, it feels like we all forgot about 2016. Like, it feels like we all forgot,
yes,
like the absolute crazy shit that the left was doing from like 2016 to 2020, which obviously I would hope that you don't, because you were like in many.
I feel like there's a lot of people, there's a lot of women that are left that actually are very self-aware and actually can like point out good criticisms on their own side. Like, this is the second lady that's also on the left that's able to do this. But like, Destiny's just sitting there just molding and being like, oh, I mean, we don't know about this. Like, he's just gonna keep feigning ignorance and stuff like that. Or he really doesn't actually know what's going on and he's just shouting into the wind.
Ways a victim of all that stuff as well. But I feel like when we look at Trump, it's hard not to look at that and think that he's a monster that we made a little bit. One thing that I think about a lot, do you think that the left tends to be broadly like more educated and if not morally right, at least like morally lucky, or do you disagree with that framework?
It's probably a lot of more luck, but right now they just tend to, for whatever reason, the political alignment ended up to where they probably believe more in things that are truthful than conservatives who are in complete and total fantasy land right now.
But of course you would have to say that.
So this is something me and Josiah have like fought about before, which is that like, do you have different standards for like the educated versus the uneducated, or like the morally lucky versus the unmorally lucky? And I think like I'm of two. I actually don't know where I fall. I waffle back and forth on this answer all the time because I think that there's sound arguments on either side, which would argue like, well, if this group is broadly more educated and whatnot, then there is a certain level.
Destiny completely disagrees with that point. Sound arguments on both sides? Oh, are you doing both sidesism now? What? Like, that's what Destiny would say, but I don't know if he's going to say it in this video.
Responsibility to conduct themselves, but then on the flip side, it's like,
because this person that he's talking to is his friend, and he respects her a lot, so he's not going to fight with her on every single point. But when a conservative does it, we gotta like just be super contrarian all the time, every single day, like, and make the most bad faith arguments and stuff like that.